coast to coast, direct from Austin. You're listening to the Alex Jones Broadcasting Network.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Thank you for joining us. It is Wednesday, the 27th day of August 2014. I am your host, Alex Jones. We'll be here, Lord willing, for the next 3 hours live, simulcasting on over 165 AM and FM stations across the United States, global shortwave, and, of course, the internet with the free podcast, the free audio streams, and more at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. You can find the subscription site for all the films in HD and the nightly news, 7 o'clock, 5 days a week, at PrisonPlanet.tv or InfoWarsNews.com. Okay, I want to open the phones up early in the broadcast. I've been getting a little bit better over the years about taking calls. I want to open the phones up in the first hour for first-time callers to cover the waterfront of what's happening in our world and the move towards a scientifically deployed technocratic system. So I will give the number out right now for first-time callers for your questions, your comments, if you agree, if you disagree, any topic you want to raise, anything you want to bring up. All I ask when we don't screen your calls, we don't screen your calls, period. We'll say we're on a certain subject sometimes. So you need to talk about that subject, give us your take. But when it's a free-for-all, all I ask is you have a good telephone. And when you hear the psh, that means we're going to you. That you talk to me like you're explaining to me what your question is. Because sometimes when we have a free-for-all, people call in and just start talking about subjects that I don't even know what they're talking about. And I know the listeners don't in most cases. I'm sure there's somebody out there that knows what they're talking about. So just be clear or I'll move to the next person. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. We're going to get an update from Cliven Bundy. We hadn't had him on in a few months since that crisis built up and then faded away. Shadows and a portend of what's obviously coming in the future. Why did that end differently than places like Ferguson, where he ended up having 2 additional shooting deaths by the police that in both cases appeared to be people threatening to assault them? Why did that not go haywire in this case as the feds expand their land grabbing? So he'll pop in for 30 minutes at the bottom of the next hour. We're going to have a ton of other news to cover, obviously. We're going to talk about existential envy, which the globalists use, and class envy to manipulate. Max Scheller, the philosopher and proto-psychologist, exposed that, and I absolutely agree with his theorem on it to understand how advertising, how establishment advertising works. So we're going to look at some of the mind control today as well. Obviously, in big news, the IMF chief has been charged with negligence over graft case. Boy, that is just classic. And it begins. The Council on Foreign Relations is calling for the mega banks, the private Federal Reserve, to issue cash directly to the American people, training us to love our new government that's been our government since 1913. They're just coming out in the open now. That's coming to us from the Council on Foreign Relations.org and Zero Hedge. All up on Infowars.com. And this is done so that when they start, quote, taking people's private pensions and bank accounts to collectivize them, to protect them, that's in quotes. This has been the model in third world countries and now Europe, that the giant mass of people that actually get a little piece of it, who actually get a check from the private Federal Reserve, will then say, oh, yeah, take over the economy. Well, they're the folks a few years ago that sent us checks. They'll send you fiat checks that accelerate the devaluation of earning power. They've already given themselves literally hundreds of trillions of U.S. dollars, which is devalued currencies worldwide, not just ours. Now that those chickens are about to come home, they're looking at flooring the pedal with dollar devaluation and then blaming it on the bail-ins to the American people before the total bail-in guillotine economic takeover and the move towards the global digital SDR. A key bellwether, a key balloon, a key red flag has sailed. PM Central Standard Time, coming to you from deep in the heart of Texas, Austin, broadcasting worldwide from places like Oklahoma City to Chicago, Illinois, from Los Angeles, California to Rochester, New York, from Orlando, Florida to Kansas City, Missouri. We're on over 165 AM and FM affiliates, and we're #1 when it comes to political talk, not just liberal or conservative, political talk, period, on YouTube and with our podcast. Over 600,000 daily subscribers for free at Infowars.com/listen. You can subscribe to the RSS feed and the podcast right there. We're on Roku, Boxy, and all those free services as well on your cable box or system. Again, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us today. Let me just do this. I want to take a lot of calls and the wild card grab bag of any issue, any question, any comment, agree, disagree, 800-259-9231. But in this first hour, I want first-time callers. Then we'll continue with calls into the middle of the next hour. Cliven Bundy from the whole Bundy Ranch standoff. That's been over for a couple months. But is it really over? We're going to get an update with some new revelations and look at the larger unrest in the country. Why did this end up being peaceful versus Ferguson with the deaths and injuries up there? All that and more is coming up today. Let's first begin with just some of the headlines here that I'm going to read through. Peace president plots war on Syria. The Obama administration is reportedly preparing to begin airstrikes on Syrian territory without the consent of the Syrian government, claiming they need to take out the IS al-Qaeda forces that were funded by NATO and our own government in the last 4 years to topple Assad. The same al-Qaeda forces that got caught, according to even Turkish and British news, we first broke it, of course, at Infowars.com, launching fake chemical attacks, was real chemicals, but faking it and saying Assad had done it. It was pretty obvious whenever Obama came out about a year before, 2 years ago, and said, if any chemical weapons get used, we're going to bomb the government and take over for the rebels. And so then 3 times the rebels fired chemical weapons, traced back even by the UN weapons inspectors to Saudi Arabian chemicals. This is in the BBC. This is in the Turkish daily papers. This came out, and the whole thing got shut down. So now they're back wanting to bomb Syria and having U.S. aircraft fly over with the cover of the American people wanting ISIS, who's killed 300,000 plus people, mainly Christians in Syria, dealt with. But who gave them bases in eastern or in western Iraq to go into eastern Syria? NATO, the globalist, Obama. That's a fact. This is a real test to the American people and the people of the West. Are we as politically ignorant and politically illiterate as the political ruling class thinks we are? Will they bomb the Syrian military that lets Christians and Jews and non-radical Muslims live in peace, and their government doesn't wear burqas and wear suits and ties, and women can go to college and not wear hoods on their heads? Will the liberal West keep trying to overthrow governments that are doing nothing to us, that are angelic compared to al-Qaeda? They're picking out the targets. They're getting ready to overthrow the Syrian government. You watch. Islamic State video indicates terror group has sophisticated drones. They've released videos showing their brigades marching and their drones going in so they can target Assad's forces and U.S. forces now in Iraq. Oh, and by the way, it's a real enemy. I mean, they're going to kill advisors. They're going to kill contractors. These people have killed U.S. troops before. They've bragged about it. When they took over Libya, they said, next stop Syria, then the United States. And now we're being told, brace for terror attacks in America with IS. Continuing. American man reportedly killed fighting for ISIS dies in Syria. One of 3 foreign fighters alleged and aligned with Islamic State forces killed in battle in Syria fighting Syrian forces. The truth is America passed the test. We've not been proven totally politically and geopolitically illiterate when our own military and our own political class to a great extent rejected openly becoming al-Qaeda's air force or IS's air force in Syria last year. Continuing, gold ends firmer on short covering, bargain hunting. Silver also slightly up as dollar devaluation news sends other commodities up as well. Coast Guard cutter fires warning shot at Iranian sailboat in brief altercation. No, it wasn't an Iranian boat off the U.S. coast. It was off the Iranian coast. Coast Guard's all the way over there. Coast Guard cutter fires warning shot at Iranian sailboat in brief altercation, claiming that they aimed some type of submachine gun at them. Going back to Syria, West unlikely to seek Assad's help against ISIS. Unlikely Western countries will collaborate with Assad to combat ISIS. That's really a sick joke. Now that the West is so upset that the public knows that they're running al-Qaeda, this is all a bunch of elaborate baloney. Bomb a Toyota truck, bomb an old piece of artillery. Never do I see troops running away. Never do I see al-Qaeda